Thanks for tuning in to watch The Ordinary Filmmaker. It's Monday, January the 17th, 2022, and we're just a couple of days away from Canon announcing the R5c, along with some cinema cameras, lenses, and a firmware update for the C70. But the big deal about the Canon R5c is its ability to record unlimited, no record time, in up to 30 frames per second in 8K with Cinema Raw Lite. That's really a big deal. But I've been telling many of you for the past year or so that you can get unlimited recording with the R5 by itself in certain scenarios, in certain environments. And couple that with the Ninja 5 or the Ninja 5 Plus, you can dramatically increase your record times and get unlimited recording in more scenarios and really up your game. So in this video, I'm going to bring all that together in one single video, tell you what you can do to your R5 by itself to increase your record times, and in what scenarios and environmental conditions you can expect to get unlimited 4K 60 or 4K HQ. And I'm also going to address the question of, with these settings and with the Ninja 5 and Ninja 5 Plus, do you really need the R5c? And I'm also going to be using some footage from a good friend of mine, the Def Director. He's only got about 2,000, 2,500 subscribers, so I'm going to invite you to check out his channel and take a look at his content. Unlike myself, he is a full-time film director. He lives, eats, breathes this stuff. This is his day job, and he puts out videos every now and then, and his content's really good. So please do me a favor, go ahead and check out his channel, subscribe, and watch his videos, and let's get him monetized. He's pretty close to getting monetized, so what I'm going to be doing in this video to tease you a little bit more about his channel is I'm going to be using B-roll, because what the Def Director has done is he's gone into a lot of testing and a lot of details in testing, and I thought, well, instead of me going ahead and retesting it, I thought, well, why not use some of his content to show you guys where he's gone ahead and tested it, and also give him a chance to get more subscribers. And yes, I have reached out to him, of course, and I do have his permission. But now let's go ahead and take a look at what we can do to the R5, the very basic things we can do to increase record times. Now, the first thing you can do is you can extend the LCD out. On the Canon EOS R5, this isn't going to give you an awful lot of extension to your record times. In fact, according to the Def Director,
I got overheating times at 43:21 and 44:10. That is less than a minute of difference.
Based on his testing, you're only going to extend record times by about 2%. That's not a huge amount. But because I know that not all of my viewers are Canon shooters, a friend of mine, Stop the FOMO, uses the Alpha 1 on his channel. He's got the Shogun, the Atomos Shogun, and by having the LCD out, made the difference between shooting for about half an hour and shooting for an hour. So the LCD definitely does make a difference. The next item, using a dummy battery. Now, of course, this narrows your scenarios. You're not going to be able to do run and gun, because I can't think of too many scenarios where you're doing run and gun with a dummy battery and a V-mount battery or something else connected to your rig. It will start to get a little bit cumbersome, and in that case, you can definitely see why the R5c would make more sense. But a dummy battery without the LCD adds about 7% more to record time. So between those two settings alone, whether you have the Ninja 5 or not, you're increasing your record times by about 10%. Still, not a big deal, but if you're doing a lot of run and gun stuff, an extra 10% can mean the difference between continuing shooting and having to wait for the camera to cool down. Now, these next settings are actually internal and in the menu systems. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. I couldn't figure out why he wasn't able to get unlimited record times with his R5, because everything else was the same, and I forgot these very basic settings. So in the menu settings, under the wrench, you want to look for power save, and there's a couple of options, and what I do is I turn off the LCD and the EVF after 1 minute. I don't lose any functionality. If I go ahead and press the shutter button or tap the screen, it comes back to life and it will reset the counter, and I have another minute before it goes away. And once I turned this on, I dramatically increased my record times with the R5 by itself. And with the Ninja 5, not the Ninja 5 Plus, I was actually able to achieve unlimited recording in 4K HQ with those settings, and that really changed everything. And to introduce the next setting, here's the Def Director.
Standby low res. Now, standby low res is there in the raw menu, and you implement it when you're shooting raw. Now, the great thing about standby low res is essentially what it does. It takes your LCD screen on the back of your camera when you're exporting a raw signal, and it gives you a lower res preview on the LCD screen as it's going up to the HDMI.
Thanks a lot, Brian. All right, when I first heard about the setting standby low res, well, I was a little bit confused, and I spent I don't know how many hours last night looking into this, And I came down to my camera and I checked, and you know what? Standby low res was turned on. First of all, let's be very clear here. I want to talk at a very conceptual level. If you have standby low res turned on and you're shooting in 8K RAW or 5K RAW. Now remember, 5K RAW is a capability that you can get by shooting with the Ninja 5 Plus. So if you're shooting with any of those two and you have standby low res on, not only are you going to get unlimited recording in 8K or 5K RAW, but you're going to be able to record at full detail. Now, if you leave that setting on and you forget about it, if you leave that setting on, here's what's really important to know. You're not going to get that full detail that you would normally get with 4K HQ, and here's why. Standby low res means literally that. When it's in standby mode, meaning you're not touching it, you're not recording anything, it puts out a low res signal. And how do you record with the Ninja 5? Well, you hook it into the HDMI port. So you're getting a low res signal coming to the HDMI. So if you're shooting with a Ninja 5 or a Ninja 5 Plus, and you're in 4K 60, 4K HQ, any of the overheat modes that aren't the 8K or 5K RAW, you're going to be recording a less detailed image. And the only way to overcome that, according to the Def Director, is to press record on the R5 and then record with the Ninja 5, which kind of defeats why record to both. So the other option then is when you're shooting with 4K HQ or 4K 60, or you're shooting completely outside of 8K RAW or 5K RAW, you want to have standby low res turned off. And I don't know how mine came on. Now I fiddle with my camera every now and then, but rarely do I make changes to it. And I'm always shooting with a custom mode. And my custom mode, in case you're thinking, doesn't allow me to make changes. If I make any changes, turn the camera off and on again, those changes are wiped. But I do regularly apply firmware updates, and I wonder if the firmware update not only put the setting into my camera, but by default turned it on. So I've since changed the setting in my custom profile for recording in the studio. My studio, I have separate settings because the lighting's always the same, and I've turned standby low res off because I've been shooting with the Ninja 5 for I don't know how long, and I've never had to worry about overheating in the studio. But when I shoot manual stuff, like I said, I was shooting Christmas with my family, shooting, I think I shot for 45 minutes, and I got to see that 4 minutes left of record time. Now also, when it comes down to 4 or 5 minutes, if you're in temperatures of less than 70 degrees, and especially less than 65 degrees, what happens is when you get down to that 5 and 4 minutes, it's not really 5 and 4 minutes, it's almost like a hockey curve. It takes so much more longer times, let me try and say that again. It takes you a lot longer you can record for a whole lot longer before you actually will get down to 0, and then you see that flashing warning that the camera's about to shut off. So if you're shooting with the R5 without the Ninja hooked up, yes, you can leave standby on, because as soon as you press that record button, it's going to wake up the LCD, start putting through a high detailed image, and you're not going to have any issues. And of course, if you start recording with this mode with the Ninja 5, or the Ninja 5 Plus, it'll warn you and let you know that the signal coming out of the HDMI, unless you press record on the camera, can reduce a rather limited detail. And that would explain a few things, because I noticed when I was recording, when I was doing my workflow for the channel, I was recording in H.265, and I noticed a couple of times that the detail wasn't very good, and I thought it was H.265 encoding, so I went back to H.264. So in this video, I have standby low res turned off. I'm going to go back to shooting or editing with H.265. So let's conclude everything that I've talked about in this video. If you're just shooting with the Canon EOS R5, you want to have the LCD out and shoot with a dummy battery. And you also want to turn off the EVF and the LCD after 1 minute. Now, I think it's the LCD you can turn off after 15 seconds. Sure, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. This works really well in certain scenarios. If you're shooting inside, if you're shooting in a studio, you're not moving the camera around, you basically press record and that's it. This works really, really well. If you're shooting a lot of short clips, like 10 to 15 seconds, like I'm shooting Christmas morning with my family, it's not going to work nearly as well, because you're not going to be shooting for a long period of time where going into standby mode is really going to make much of a difference. But if you keep your camera on a lot before you end up shooting, this is definitely going to help out. Now, if you've got a Ninja 5 or a Ninja 5 Plus, if you're shooting in 8K or 5K, you're going to get unlimited. Keep those same settings, but you also want to turn on standby low res when you're shooting in 8K and 4K RAW. Now, when you shoot in all other modes, such as 4K HQ, 4K 60, or even the standard 4K modes, you want to make sure you have standby turned off, standby low res turned off. But again, if you're not shooting with a Ninja 5 or Ninja 5 Plus, it's really mute. You don't have to worry about it in any way whatsoever. And one last thing, when it comes to shooting in the environment, I've done many tests over the last couple of years, and when shooting below 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is around 15 or 16 degrees Celsius, I'm not sure on the Celsius, but I know 60, I've never had overheating in 4K 120. It still stops recording at that, I think it's 7.5 minute mark. I'm able to record 8K unlimited. I'm able to record 4K HQ, 4K 60 unlimited below 60 degrees. So the question is, do we need the R5c? Well, if you've already bought a Ninja 5 and a Ninja 5 Plus and you're pretty happy working with that environment, then I see no reason to get the R5c based on what we know about the R5c at this point. Now, it will depend on what codecs they give us. Will they give us Apple ProRes? Will they give us some extra features that will make it worthwhile to move to the R5c? But for the rest of us, those of us that are doing run and gun a whole lot of times, where we are going to be shooting a lot, where we have the camera set up in the studio and we have it on for a long period of time because we're monitoring, but we're not recording, well, the R5c is clearly better. Not only does it provide unlimited recording due to the absence of overheating, but eliminates that 30-minute record limit. And here's the problem when you're shooting with the R5 by itself without any external recorders. There's no way of getting around that 30-minute record limit. Only the Ninja 5 and the Ninja 5 Plus allows you to completely get away from that 30-minute record limit. And I got to tell you, since I've been shooting this channel with the Ninja 5, I no longer have to worry about the battery running out because I'm using a dummy battery hooked directly up to the mains. I no longer have to worry about the 30-minute record limit, and I no longer have to worry about overheating. So there are some scenarios where you can shoot with the R5 like I am doing here without any overheating whatsoever. And for me, living in Canada, where for 8 months of the year, the average temperature outside is below 60 degrees, my run and gun stuff I can shoot for as long as I want, especially on a day like today where we've got about 6 to 8 inches of snow, or projected to get about 12 inches of snow. It's a perfect day for shooting. And because it's weather sealed, I don't have to worry about that. But I'm getting off the topic. The R5c is a very, very big camera because it doesn't matter what mode you're shooting in. You don't have to worry about flipping the LCD out, using a dummy battery, changing the EVF setting, changing the LCD setting, making sure your standby low res is on or off depending on what you're shooting, setting up custom modes, making sure you're in that right custom mode, using manual mode for this mode. You see, it gets rather complicated. With the R5c, not only does it simplify things, but you also don't have that extra weight, and you're for somebody that's traveling and moving around a lot, that's one less box of gear that you have to carry around with you and don't have to worry about forgetting or leaving behind. But one last thing I do want to mention, and it's not subscribing or liking me, it's actually the Def Director. Please check out his site. He's got some really incredible content. And when it came to looking up and researching some of the facts behind this video, I thought, wow, the Def Director's already done the research. He's got the detailed data sets that I don't have to re-record, because I was going to go ahead and do the recording, do some of the testing. Some tests I've already done, and I've got the data for that, but the Def Director went even further when it came to standby low res. And after I watched this video, I came downstairs, I didn't even realize that I already had standby low res turned on. So please go ahead, as a thank you to him, go ahead and subscribe. You're doing me a favor too, because I love to see great content out there, and the Def Director puts out really good content. So subscribe to his channel, like, and if you haven't subscribed to mine, like as well. But that's it for now. I am taking Wednesday off, so I'm going to provide you with full coverage. I'll have a video coming out first thing after the presentation, so you can expect that within an hour after the presentation. And then I'm going to be going live stream. I'm starting to lose my voice here. I'm going to go live stream, so if you guys have any questions regarding what came out, if you have any questions about the R5Cs, the cinema cameras, or anything else, I'm going to go live and we can talk about that together. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.